Greetings, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining on really short notice. We'll make it quick tonight. Folks may want to watch the Olympics. You've got other things going on. Although I enjoy being with you on a Saturday evening. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Susan's and Cheryl's here. Jody, Winnie, Tracy's here. Thank you. And coming on with some short notice news. I hate to say breaking news. You know my problem with that, right? It's said too often, but there are a couple of things breaking. We're going to cover Tulsi Gabbard. We're going to cover the search for Nancy Guthrie and the latest there. There's some brand new news there. Yeah, got some folks saying they're not watching the Olympics, and I get it. I understand that. We could do an hour on my experience with Olympic games and being detailed to Olympic committees during my career, but we're not going to do that. All right, I'm going to allow some more folks to come in. We've got a number of folks joining us. Some serious stuff tonight. It's always serious, but seldom is it life and death. And it's life and death tonight. We're going to talk about the latest development in the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's investigation involving the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, mother to Savannah Guthrie, and to their her other daughter Annie and her son Callan, and an agonizing decision that's been made. So here's what we've got. Breaking tonight, reported, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first report has come from CNN, but often in these situations, your best sources of news are from the local stations. And we're talking, of course, about Tucson, Arizona. And we're talking specifically about the neighborhood called the Catalina Foothills. What's new here? What's new, if you've been following this, you're aware there have been alleged ransom demands, but there's been yet another communication that is possibly, and I emphasize possibly, from the abductor or abductors tonight. And that has prompted, this is why I'm coming on with you this evening, that has prompted the family to issue yet another video. It's just been out maybe 40 minutes to an hour. And again, put out by CNN and perhaps others now. And that is where Savannah Guthrie, one of the co-hosts of NBC News' Today Show, is saying, speaking directly to the captor or captors, perhaps, I'll get to that in a second, that they've received this latest communication. And the pertinent part of the message here is that they understand, quote, and, quote, we will pay. We will pay. We've received your message. We understand, and we will pay. So we're left here to conjecture. But something has happened. Something in this latest communication has prompted the family to believe more, perhaps, than they have in the past, that they are dealing with, or are more likely than not dealing with, actual captors. There's another theory, which is that this latest communication might have contained such an imminent threat to their mom that regardless of whether or not they're more convinced that this is an abductor, they've decided to pay. And what do we know about these ransom demands so far? One, we've been told, at least up till now, that I don't yet have a law enforcement characterization of this latest communique from the alleged abductors. But we've been hearing all along that there is no proof of life. Proof of life is generally essential to a decision for a family to pay. Otherwise, you may be throwing money into a black hole. Maybe you're duped. But and this decision is the families. The FBI can coach, can lay out pros, cons, do kind of a decision tree. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know. But ultimately, decision to pay is the families. And there are some unique things about this case so far. First, we're told reportedly that the demands have been for Bitcoin. This is the society we live in now. Why Bitcoin? Why? Very difficult to trace. Okay? Very difficult to trace. And speaking of difficult to trace, these multiple ransom demands now have come via messages that are incredibly difficult. In fact, virtually impossible to trace to an actual origin. We're talking about servers being used and anonymized IP addresses. You can keep going and going and going. You can go down rabbit holes if you're trying to trace where messages are coming from. You can think you've finally got it. We got it. It's narrowed down to, this Eastern European country or this African nation. And it's a ruse. It's a ruse. It's not really there. This happens increasingly, folks. So imagine yourself, this family member, Savannah Guthrie or her siblings, and now you're faced with a decision. Maybe you've got some information in these communiques, and we're told this is the case, that might lead you to believe this person has seen the house, or my mom, or in the case we're being told, knew the location perhaps of her Apple Watch, of Nancy Guthrie's Apple Watch, which she apparently takes off at night. By the way, she has a pacemaker, if you haven't heard. It's not unusual at all. In fact, it's recommended that if you have a pacemaker, you take off the Apple Watch, you get the devices away from you at night, because that synchronization, that communication that takes place between the pacemaker and your Apple Watch, which gives you updates, and you can even have devices that send messages to your doctor. At nighttime, what you don't want is that Apple Watch crossing over your chest as you turn in your bed and disrupting the pacemaker. So you take it off. Allegedly, the captor, if it's the captor, and not someone pretending to be the captor, allegedly knew the location of that Apple Watch and or Nancy's smartphone. But something tonight has changed. Something has, either a deadline of grave threat and or something extra in this latest communique has led the family and law enforcement to believe it's time to pay. And again, not to harp on this, but that could fall into two categories. We can't allow this imminent threat to go ignored, even though we're uncertain and have no proof of life. Or second category, we got some inkling that this person's for real. Maybe even some inkling that of real-time information on mom. We don't know. We do know, reportedly through various media sources, that the demands have been in the millions, quote, millions, plural. And again, I'm sure at this point, the family is not concerned about the amount, but rather the safety of their mom. And imagine if you have those millions, still thinking, if I play tough here and I'm wrong, can I live with myself if this leads to my mom's demise? This is the agonizing decision that we're facing, that the Guthrie family is facing tonight. I say we're facing because nobody wants any harm to come to Nancy Guthrie, and everybody wants this resolved. There's been some extra activity at the house, at Nancy's house recently. I mean, very recently. And it makes me wonder whether or not information came in from the captor or from somewhere else that led them to go back into the house. By the way, it's not unusual. It's not preferable, by the way. I've had this happen in my own FBI career. You got, did we do this? Did we do it? I can't remember. No, we didn't do it. you're back in the house, or some new information develops, like reportedly they towed Nancy's car out of the garage, or some other car related to the house or nearby. Reportedly, a nearby Circle K gas station was approached by law enforcement and asked for their recording of their security cameras. And law enforcement walked away with recording of the security cameras, presumably because a vehicle or a person associated with the abduction was in that security camera. Yes, they've scoured every intersection camera in the city. Yes, they've taken every license plate reader readout. Yes, all of that's being cross-analyzed. Yes, they've talked to the company that makes the security cameras for Nancy Guthrie's house and tried desperately to get something not only out of the security cameras at the house, reportedly to almost no avail, because things were not set up thoroughly enough. And in fact, with the doorbell camera at the front door, that reportedly was damaged or ripped out. Just that camera, but not all the other cameras in the house. They scoured the neighborhood for everyone's doorbell cameras and security cameras. And what we keep hearing is the nature of the community. And let me assure you, I'm very familiar with the Catalina foothills. It is a dark by design area, meaning the Tucson area has an amazing observatory, planetary observatory, and cherishes its natural habitat, the wildlife there. And you can't have extensive lighting on your home. So it's extremely dark on purpose. And that's getting in the way here. Has the FBI been successful in tracking Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in ransomware demands? You know, ransomware has become a pandemic, an epidemic. Entire companies, hospital systems, and school systems being told, we have your data for ransom. You have to pay us in crypto, Bitcoin. Has the FBI ever successfully tracked it and gotten it back and found who did it? Yes. 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 I don't want to get into that with great detail here, but yes. So that's where we are with the disturbing case of Nancy Guthrie. As to motive, there is not a clue as to why this woman was singled out. Was it because she has a celebrity daughter? Don't assume that, but they're looking at it. They're looking at every single angle. Was it because she was vulnerable? Was it because someone spotted her coming home, being dropped off by family members after dinner at their family members' homes that night, about 9:30, 9:45? Did that prevent an entry for a suspect to do something? Had somebody been watching the house? They've looked at all that, trespass calls for service in the neighborhood, people with records, people with kidnap records in the area. Yeah, all of that's being done. And still, here we are tonight, fingers crossed, hoping for the best, and hoping that law enforcement has sharp minds and vision tonight. Okay, I want to move on to something that on a more global scale, and it's near and dear to my heart because it's breaking news now in the national security world and in the intelligence community, and it's disturbing news. You may have paid attention and been following this week news of the whistleblower complaint against DNI Tulsi Gabbard. If you've been following that, you need to know there's been a development today. And that is, we have new reporting from The Guardian. And I want to emphasize something. Typically, when I go on and talk about something, I have multiple sources, credible media. I'm telling you tonight, I just had The Guardian's report. Okay? They put it out today. And I'm gonna emphasize that it's The Guardian. And but they have access. They claim to have access to at least 2 pieces of new information regarding Tulsi Gabbard. And let's back up here and just recap what we had so far this week. An attorney for a whistleblower has said, essentially, I paraphrase, that the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, has essentially been refusing to let a whistleblower complaint about her and her handling of certain highly classified reporting. She's not letting it go forward. That's essentially the complaint by the whistleblower. But more specifically, the whistleblower is saying that Tulsi Gabbard deliberately ordered that certain very sensitive intelligence reporting not be distributed per usual. Now, today, we learn more about what reporting we're talking about, who is the subject of the reporting, and what's been transpiring. So, the Guardian's reporting today is that the NSA, the National Security Agency, that 3-letter agency, which we aren't supposed to talk about, the agency that is involved in signal intercepts, a fancy way of saying that they listen in on people's conversations abroad, on targeted foreigners abroad. Reportedly, per The Guardian today, the NSA intercepted a communication between someone affiliated with a foreign intelligence service. And I'm going to quote how that person's described. An unusual phone call. Okay, so that's even more than a communication. That's not an email. It's not a letter. It's a phone call between an individual associated with foreign intelligence and a person close to Donald Trump, according to the whistleblower's attorney. Okay, let me give you as much as I can in an unclassified explanation. Despite lots of screaming from people on all sides of the aisle, the NSA targets foreigners. Yes, of course, they capture U.S. persons. Incidentally, right? By accident. If you're listening enough to foreign people, of course you're going to eventually capture a U.S. person talking or emailing with that foreigner. Yes. And that's a big deal, by the way, for the NSA. Despite what you may hear, that is a big deal. That person's identity is masked and stored in a super secret capacity. Who are the kinds of foreign people that the NSA will target? Yes, someone associated with foreign intelligence. You bet. Yeah, particularly if they have a close association with someone who's in intelligence for a foreign service or associated with a foreign intelligence service. And so what this sounds like is an incidental capture. So you've got a legitimate target, right? I'm reading between the lines here, folks. Legitimate foreign intelligence target. And then you have what is probably what's called an incidental capture with possibly a U.S. person. We don't know that, but I say possibly a U.S. person because this person is close to Donald Trump. We don't know. We don't know if that's a U.S. person or not. We don't know who that person is, but we know that's what was captured. So now, is this a big deal right there in just what I said? Not really. Not so much. We know that the Trump family, the Trump associates are all over international business deals. I've had cases in my career where, a relative of a president is unwittingly or unknowingly communicating with someone who is associated with a foreign intel service. And typically what you do is you go to that person. It's handled very discreetly. You go to that person and you kind of say, hey, stop this. Who are you? You know who you're talking to? Stop. That kind of thing happens. Or you open an investigation if you need to. You do. But that's not what's happening here. What the whistleblower alleges is that rather than allowing NSA officials to do what they typically do with this, which is to carefully distribute this highly sensitive information to top officials in the intel community who need to know, right? It's not like, hey, we're going to hit send on a group email. No, 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 no. Let me just give you an example of how this was handled when I was the head of counterintelligence for the FBI. I'd get a phone call from someone at Fort Meade, NSA headquarters, at a fairly high level, usually a senior executive. Frank, are you in your office this afternoon? Yes, I am. Can I come by at 2:00? Yes, you can. My office is, of course, a skiff. We're going to show you something. This is how it's hand carried to me. And it says in a red cover, eyes only. And you sign it when you got it, and you sign it when you turned it back over. And you read it, and maybe the eyes bug out of your head, or maybe they don't. Usually that's done when there's someone at very high level who's been intercepted, or incidentally, perhaps, right? Associated with Donald Trump. Or it's a high level, it's a high level person, or it's a U.S. person of great significance, or something's happening. Tulsi Gabbard said, don't do that. Tulsi Gabbard allegedly, again, very careful here, allegedly, according to the attorney for this whistleblower, she said, don't do that. Don't show that to people. No, no, no. She took a paper copy of the intelligence directly to, wait for it, who did she take a paper copy to? Of an intercept by NSA involving someone close to Trump and a foreign intelligence affiliated person. She took it to Susie Wiles, according to the attorney for the whistleblower. Who is Susie Wiles, you said? The chief of staff for the president of the United States. Here's where, so up until now, right? Up until now, an intercept, NSA, somebody who knows is close to the president, somebody who's affiliated with foreign intelligence, close hold. Yeah, hey, don't do that. I want to handle this carefully. I'm okay with this so far. And now I'm not. Allegedly, Tulsi Gabbard says, time out, give me the paper copy so I can walk away with it and give it to Donald Trump's chief of staff. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad. Gets worse. One day after she meets with Susie Wiles, what does Tulsi Gabbard do? She tells the NSA, don't publish this report. Right? So what she got was raw. It was raw intel. Don't publish. Don't put this in official format. Instead, I want you, she says, allegedly, to transmit the highly classified details directly to my office. Did the head of the FBI get this? The head of counterintel, which was my position, did he or she get it? How about the director of the CIA? Were they allowed to see it? How about that? So they could open an investigation, figure out what the hell's going on with this close person to the president and a foreign intelligence associate? No, according to this, no. No, in fact, it gets worse. I want to say, because I have to, because I have some standards. I want to say the DNI's office issued a statement saying this is all false. It's false. And every single action taken by DNI Gabbard was fully within her legal and statutory authority. This is all politically motivated. Here we go. This happened. When did this happen, you might say? In the spring, on 17 April. April 17th, this happened. Why is that significant? Because do you know what the deadline is for a whistleblower complaint? Well, I say April 17th was when the whistleblower complaint against Gabbard was given to the inspector general at the intelligence community, at the DNI. Okay? You know how long that person has by regulation to provide such a whistleblower complaint to Congress? 21 days. 21 days. Once the whistleblower complainant says, I want to go, you're jamming me up, This is going nowhere. I want to relay this to Congress per my authority as a whistleblower. You have 21 days, DNI, to tell me how to do it, and to you do it or I do it. 21 days. Ladies and gentlemen, we're 8 months away from this. 8 months away. Okay. And if you think, well, I heard the IG over there looked at this complaint and found it not to be credible. No, not quite. First, let's talk about this. Who has Tulsi Gabbard assigned as the Inspector General? One of her top advisors now is, Dennis Kirk. Right after April, she put a new person in called Dennis Kirk, one of her top advisors, on 9 May. So April 17, she's flipping out and she goes, I need a new person as Inspector General. That will be my buddy, Dennis Kirk. This smells, ladies and gentlemen. This is the fox guarding the hen house at the Directorate of National Intelligence. And now, with the fact that all of this whistleblower news has been in the news this week, and boy, now we have much more disturbing news, right? She had to issue a statement, Tulsi Gabbard. And what did she say? Because she's busy flying around to Fulton County, Georgia, in her black ball cap and puffy jacket to execute seizure warrants of ballots. But she did manage the time to issue a statement. What did she say? In a letter addressed to members of Congress. And by the way, this came one day after the Wall Street Journal reported all about this classified situation. So she's jammed up. She decides, I got to issue a statement. And the statement is, I'm blaming everybody but me. Really, it's the dog ate my homework. It's for example, the reasons for this 8-month delay. Well, if the complaint was top secret, yes, NSA. Let me assure you, NSA intercepts are top secret and compartmented usually. Yeah, but that's BS. But you can't talk to the Gang of Eight, the chairs of the House and Senate Intelligence Committee. You think they don't have top secret clearances, Tulsi? Nonsense. If they don't have a certain compartmented read them in. Read them in. Also, she said another reason, the government shut down because of no budget back in the fall. Also, no one told me. No one told me that I had to report this to you. Oh my God. Yeah. So the members of the Gang of Eight, the group of Senate and House leaders, the Speaker, the minority leaders, House and Senate Intel chair leaders, they got something from her. You know what it was? It was black magic marker. It was heavily redacted. Heavily redacted. Yeah. Okay, folks. What else have they said? We're exercising executive privilege. Executive privilege. This is fascinating, and would not be the first time that Tulsi Gabbard has shot herself in the foot. She did the other day, right, when she said, I'm in Fulton County on behalf of the president. He ordered me here. And then the president was interviewed by NBC News, Tom Yamas at NBC News. And Tom asked the president, what's up with Tulsi in Georgia? He goes, I don't know. He said, I don't know. So Tulsi, here we go again with Tulsi. What does she say? Executive privilege. Okay. You may regret that, because that means that this allegation involves some presidential action, some official action. Uh-oh. Now, watch some reporter on Monday ask the president, hey, Tulsi Gabbard said, the super secret intercept between someone close to you and a foreign intelligence person involves executive official action by you. Is that true? And how much you want to bet? The president goes, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I don't know. Oh boy. And the other thing is, I want to give you some perspective since I've handled this stuff before. This is no big deal if the intercepted communication is, I don't know, someone close to the president. I don't know. Barron is writing love letters, or this is a phone call. Barron's, having a phone call about how great the chocolate is in Belgium with I don't know, with a young lady who makes Belgium chocolate, but her dad is in the Belgian intelligence service, right? What I'm getting at is, could this be totally innocuous? Not really. No, that's not going to get hand carried to Tulsi Gabbard. No, that's like nobody knows about that. No one cares. Don't bother me with that. With the chocolate and the girlfriend to Belgium, I don't care. Right? It's my point is there's something to this, and there's something to the fact that a whistleblower, likely privy to this, right, is saying, "Hey, this ain't no small beer. This conversation that was intercepted, it's a big deal, and it's not getting anywhere." So just in case you're wondering, because you could call your Uncle Tony in Italy. Hey, love those Olympics. The opening ceremony was amazing. Andrea Bocelli made me cry. The opening ceremony. And your Uncle Tony he works for the Italian police. No one cares. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. So you say, Frank, you always deliver bad news. You don't tell us what's going on next. I have that for you. The Gang of Eight in the Senate and the House, those top leaders that we elected, they are going straight to NSA. They have already. They're going around Tulsi Gabbard. Enough with you, they say. They're going to NSA and they're saying, give us the unredacted, unmasked intelligence report. Give it to us now. Now, that's what we have on Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, the queen of all fraud hunting for elections. Now something has been intercepted at a highly classified level, and she wants nobody to see it but her and Susie Wiles. So if I'm in Congress, who am I calling to testify under oath on this? And obviously it's going to have to be in a skiff, which they have, by the way, been in them many times in Congress. Anytime you're testifying behind closed doors to House Intel, Senate Intel, you're in a skiff. Bring her in. Susie, how was your weekend? Did you catch the Super Bowl? How about that top secret intercept involving your boss, Don? Please tell us all about it and what Tulsi told you to do with it and what you did with it. Susie, did you share that with your boss, Don? Did you tell Don that one of his close associates was intercepted by our government talking to a foreign intel operator or associate? Did you? Why? That's where we are. So, prayers for Nancy Guthrie tonight and the Guthrie family. And I wanted to be the first to jump on and tell you about this breaking development. It's going to be a big deal. Stay tuned to enjoy the Olympics, enjoy the Super Bowl, or not. I'll see you next time.